Hope you are well rested up after a week off, but we are back here on the FamilyDeal.com 7 Sports Cave. I am your host, Justin Rose. On tonight's show, we're talking all things Michigan State football. What happened with Mark D'Antonio, bringing in Mel Tucker into the fold, and of course, what can we expect moving forward for the football program. We'll also talk about Michigan State and Michigan basketball. Ron Gardenhire, Brad Galley went one-on-one with him down in Lakeland today. We got lots to get to, so let's get right into it. It seems like we talk a lot about Isaiah Livers' impact on the basketball court, and it can't be stressed enough. Without him, the team's no good. With him, they are a whole lot better. They were 4-5 without him in the lineup, but back today in Indiana in town, Michigan using plenty of three-point shooting to get them in front early. They did not look back. Of course, can't do anything without a great point guard. Here is Xavier Simpson. What a dime he threw down. Franz Wagner, he led the Wolverines in scoring today. He had 16 points. Xavier Simpson with that double-double. Of course, Juwan Howard happy with how Livers has been helping.
Great to having a guy like Isaiah Livers back. His presence on the floor just makes us a better team. We saw it throughout the season in the first half of the season when he was healthy, where we played good basketball when he was in the lineup. When he was out with his injury, we truly missed him. So now we're able to get him back in the lineup, being healthy, and we're just a better ball club with him in the game.
Red Wings in a matinee at Pittsburgh today. This one followed that familiar script as of late. Valtteri Filppula scored early to give Detroit the early lead, but just like this week's losses to New Jersey and Boston, it was all opposition from there. Pittsburgh scores 5 unanswered goals to win it 5-1. Red Wings have now lost 4 straight.
It's easy to be happy, do things the right way when things are going well, but it's hard when things are going poorly, and it's easy to point fingers, but we're all part of the problem, and we got to look within ourselves and see how we can be part of the solution.
I want to bring up an interesting point about the Red Wings. They're still 6th overall in attendance, even though they have the worst record in the league. Way to go, Hockey Town. How about some breaking news tonight as The Athletic is reporting that Cavaliers head coach John Beilein not expected to stay as head coach past this season. According to the report, several factors have come into play, including the team's on and off the court struggles, as well as his son's resignation from Niagara. Beilein left the All-Star break to weigh his future as head coach, and it's possible he's already coached his last game. Bummer to see that. The NBA All-Star Game underwent a new format this season, with each team trying to win the quarter for $100,000 for charity. After Team LeBron and Team Giannis split the first 2 quarters, they tied the third. It became the first to score 157 points. There's LeBron James getting them to 156 points, and Anthony Davis, I truly believe, in my heart of hearts, he hit a free throw for Team LeBron to take the victory. It's been probably the busiest 2 weeks in Michigan State football and basketball history. Helping me break things down, Rico Beard from the Spartan Beat, Darian Harris, former linebacker for the Michigan State Spartans. I mean, I'm not trying to hype it up because I think it's been one of the craziest, most whirlwind times since maybe 2015 when they went to the college football playoff and then to the Final Four the following season. You guys remember anything quite like this, as highs and lows as we're going through right now?
No, for me personally, no. Especially being in and out of the media circus of it all. I really feel for you all who are in it. I mean, 24/7, 365. I mean, it's truly been a whirlwind, I think, for everybody. Obviously, for Coach Tucker and his family getting here and getting thrust into the heat of things. For the assistant coaches, past and present and future, trying to figure out what they're going to do. For the players currently on the team, for former players, for fans, it's definitely been a whirlwind. I think that's the best way to describe it.
There's so many layers to this onion that is the coaching search, and there's going to be a phenomenal 30 for 31 day at some point because, of course, the national media hates it more than anything. At least it seems that way right now. But we got to start from the beginning. Mark D'Antonio's decision to step down. What have you guys heard? What do you know about it? And obviously, is there still more to that story to come out eventually?
I guess for me, as a former player, first and foremost, I mean, we didn't really care to know whether there was another reason. If there is another reason, I mean, I take everything at face value. I trust the guy, I love the guy, and I truly believe he just wanted to spend more time with his family. You know, that's what was reported, that's what we heard, that's all the information we got. I know everything kind of came out of nowhere for us as well. There was nothing that was like an indicator that now was the time that he was going to step down. So for us, it happened so fast that all we could really do was just relive the great times we had with him and kind of leave it at that.
Right.
I think it'll be a two-part 30 for 30. What happened to Mark at the end, and then the Mel Tucker. It's the second part of the 30 for 30. Because, I mean, it's conflicting reports. It's reports that, you know, there's some that said Mark was kind of forced out. There's others that said Mark just kind of got fed up with what was going on. I don't know. It's so difficult because there's so many people telling you so many different things. But, yeah, I've heard that, hey, he wanted to pick his own coach, and he couldn't, so he left, and he kind of sped it up. Others are saying, well, you know, maybe he just wanted to spend time with the family. Justin, the timing was all off. Mm-hmm. There's something more to this story, and anybody can see that, unless you're just totally naive, wearing green and white glasses. There's more to this. I mean, even his final farewell, it just, I mean, he was choked up when he was talking. So I said, okay. You know, I can understand that. You've been there 13 years. You bled your heart and soul into this program. But the fact that he didn't want the students to celebrate it, a 25-second goodbye at a basketball game, it just didn't feel or seem right. So I don't know what it is, but that's the first part of your 30 for 30.
If the tribute video played on the Breslin Center Jumbotron was longer than the speech that the coach had given after 3 Big Ten titles.
Right, I think Trouble with the Snap went longer than his final speech.
That will obviously play itself out. He's now in the rearview mirror. Mel Tucker, look, we all know the Luke Fickell thing. That happened last Sunday. We didn't have a show to the Oscars, but here we have our first opportunity to kind of dive into this. Like, all things considered, I think Michigan State got the right guy. Am I right by saying that, or am I wrong by saying that?
I think we'll find out exactly, because we won't know what Mel Tucker truly is for a couple of years. Here's what I will say. Michigan State stepped up to the plate. Michigan State said, we're going to get a coach, but we're not going to get a coach on the cheap. We're going to put money in him. We're going to put money in his assistants. We're going to upgrade the strength and conditioning. We're going to do this the right way. We're going to put him on, whoever this coach is, on equal footing with Ohio State, Penn State, and Michigan. That's what I like about him. Now, as far as Tucker, we got to wait a couple years. But I can say this. If he fails, it's not for Michigan State's lack of trying.
It's kind of both alluded to the fact that we all are sitting here kind of trying to put our heads back on straight. Think about Mel Tucker trying to put his head on straight. He didn't, in my opinion, someone who speaks for a living, tries to speak clearly for a living. His presser didn't necessarily win a lot of people over as far as his ability to carry the crowd and to win kind of a press conference. But part of this is probably him still trying to figure out. He only had 1 season as a head coach at Colorado, leading men. I mean, it's going to take him some time to settle into that, is it not?
Yeah, I think so. There are different types of leaders. There are different types of speakers. So, yeah, you put a Tom Izzo up on the stage, Izzo's going to wow the crowd. You put a PJ Fleck up there, and you're just like, oh, my God, I want to play for this man. So I didn't judge him based on that, because dude just got off the plane, shook a lot of hands of names that he won't remember. Mm-hmm. He was like, Tom Izzo, I know you. I'll remember your name. But, you know, but I think that this year coming up, you almost have to write it off as if whatever happens, happens. It's house money. If they go 3-9, if they go 9-3, you judge him based on his next recruiting class and what happens. You could kind of look and see, okay, what type of defense, what type of offense is he trying to implement, how's the special teams looking. But as far as this, it's like Juwan Howard coming to Michigan. It was so late in the game that no matter what you did this year, you had no control over the players, over the recruits, over anything. You were just kind of said, okay, fix this a little bit later, but win with these guys now. So we'll have to see what happens.
The perception of the hire. How much does that play a role in this whole thing? We all know the past few years has been dark for Michigan State, on, off the field, you know, out in the community and whatnot. I like the hire from a perception standpoint as well. How much do you guys look into that as a time maybe Mel could be the guy to, fair or not, reunite this university with the general public?
Yeah, Yeah, I think it's incredibly important culture-wise. I'm incredibly proud and happy to see African-American coach hired as a head coach. I mean, that's a big topic in football. Now he's the second highest paid African-American football coach across all levels behind Mike Tomlin. I think that's huge for the university. Culture is a big thing. It's always going to be. Obviously, Michigan State has taken a hit in the past few years for many different reasons, and that's just a storm that you have to weather as the school. And at the end of the day, outside perception is outside perception. You know, if I can give locker room talk, what happens in the locker room is going to stay in the locker room. You got to be a family. That has to be Michigan State as a whole. We got to wrap our arms around each other, including Coach Mel Tucker and his family and whoever comes in. And just be a family again, be Spartan Nation again. You know, that's what brought us here in the first place. That's why I came to Michigan State, because of the family atmosphere, because of the brotherhood of the football program. I want to see that continue. It's been pretty steady, obviously, with basketball. Now it's time to reignite that with football.
Michigan State is a school that kind of broke the color barrier, bringing in the Bubba Smith, Gene Washington, the Sherm Lewises of the world. I like that they did that, but it wasn't, we're just going to do this and we're going to pay him a couple $1 million. No, we're going to do this and we're going to treat him like a real coach. We're not yes, he is a black head coach, but we're not treating him like we're treating him like a head coach. We're going to give him the money and we're going to give him everything he needs to succeed.
Really looking forward to seeing how this continues to play out, guys. Thank you guys so much for your thoughts on this. Of course, we got to talk about the basketball programs in the state. Michigan had a good weekend. Michigan State did not. That's coming up a little bit later. But first, we're going to have to go back down and talk to our boy, Brad Galley. He caught up with Ron Gardenhire down in Lakeland, Florida. That's coming up next on the 7 Sports Cave. Stay with us. Welcome back to the 7 Sports Cave. Just a few short hours, the Tigers will be hosting their first full team workout of spring training in Lakeland, as the saying goes. Hope springs eternal, but especially if you're Ron Gardenhire. Brad Galley talks one-on-one with the Tigers manager today.
Optimism in Detroit sports, not exactly at an all-time high. We are in Lakeland, though, where optimism and baseball season go hand in hand. When Ron Gardenhire begins his third season as manager in Detroit this March, he knows the challenge will be there in the final year of his contract to grow the young talent, to help take this rebuild in a direction they've been imagining for years now. As far as winning comes in Miguel Cabrera, we sat down and talked one-on-one. What makes you most excited to wake up and get to work when that alarm hits in the morning?
Well, I love baseball, and it's just something you're so used to that it just feels right. You know, you're going to the ballpark and getting to hang out with these guys, some really big superstar guys, and my coaching staff. We have a blast. Baseball is work when you're out on the field, but it's also a game, and we're grown men. We get to stick on a doggone uniform and do this every day. It's pretty good.
How we doing?
How do you balance what management wants, what ownership wants, and what the fan base is screaming and clamoring for?
Well, I've kind of been through a few of these situations, and you know, when I took this job, I understood what they were asking me to do, that we were in a rebuild, and they just want somebody to hold the fort down and kind of keep it as smooth as it can be and try to win games. And that last year it didn't work out too good winning games, but a lot of injuries and all those things happened, but a lot of young kids got a chance to play, and they tried. They really gave it everything they had. I can accept that. You know, we weren't very good, and I felt like I didn't do a very good job, but the clubhouse was good. They worked their tails off. Yeah. They gave great efforts, and you know what? We're going to be better this year. We got new players, so that's really why it's really exciting now. We have some veteran players that help out with, you know, the development of some of these kids.
You see some of these top-level prospects working out with some of your big-name guys and some of the guys that have been MLB veterans for a long time. Is that the sort of change that excites you when you see a Matt Manning walking with Matt Boyd?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you know, we've had them up here last year for a little bit in spring training, and Al was right away, get them out, you can't have them. So this year they're going to get a little bit longer stay, hopefully, and we'll get to see them out there on the mound, and some of these young kids, you know, position players, the same thing. And I like nothing better than getting them in the game and just watching their smiles on their face after they come off or whatever. They need, you know, to learn the ups and downs right away. It's not always going to be perfect, but you have to live with it and you have to improve, you know, the next time. So it goes in cycles, and I just enjoy the fact that we have some talent. Yeah. And I've seen it out here on the field already. They're athletic, they're mixing in with the veterans out here, and it's fun to watch.
You have a future Hall of Famer on your roster in Miguel Cabrera. What do you expect out of him on and off the field and in the clubhouse in 2020?
I just don't want to screw him up. If he were to want to talk hitting with me, it's going to screw him up. So my goal is just to keep him on the field. Honestly, I know he wants to play first base, and we'll have big conversations about that. But my goal is to let our Tiger fans see him playing all year long and healthy and hitting, and having fun, because he does have fun at the ballpark. I think everybody knows that. He is a future Hall of Famer. He's already got the numbers, and he keeps adding on. Every baseball he hits for a base hitters or whatever, we keep it and put another tag on it. So, he's just setting records as we go, and if you can't enjoy that part of it, you probably shouldn't be watching baseball.
I think I asked you at this point last year, when this franchise and this club turns the corner and starts to really start contending, do you want to be here? And you laughed and smiled and said, well, that's this year. I'll ask you again, when you start to see a little bit more glimmers of hope in that clubhouse, do you want to be here for the long term when this team finally turns the corner and contends for rings?
I love baseball, and I love it here. This has been nothing but a blessing, and you know what? That's something that Al and I will talk to at the end of the season. I told him, after you lose 114 games, it's not exactly where you want to go out and give somebody an extension. And
he got one, though.
Yeah, but he should get it because he had to put up with me. So he deserved an extension. So, it's just about let's play this thing out, and as we go along, if he wants me to talk to him about staying here, that's great. I mean, I love it here, and I love baseball, and what better city than Detroit? And honestly, the history of this organization. So, I'm proud to wear this D, and we'll talk about that as the season goes along. But like I said, after last year, 114 games, they might have thought Al was nuttier than Nutter if he would have given me an extension.
Gardenhire said it himself. He likes seeing young arms and young bats in the lineups. He likes seeing that experience happen right in front of his own eyes. As far as his boss, Al Avila, I asked him what Matt Manning and Casey Mize in an ideal world would do this season. Avila told me, stay healthy, play a full season, and play well enough to convince the Tigers that they have to call them up. In Lakeland with the Tigers, Brad Galley, 7 Action Sports.
Great stuff, Brad. Really looking forward to seeing what else you can come up with while you're down there in the sunshine in Lakeland. The rest of us up here, we'll battle through it. All right, coming up next, though, we got to talk college hoops. Rico Daran, they're back on the couch. We'll be talking Michigan and Michigan State after this quick break. Stay with us. Welcome back to the FamilyDeal.com 7 Sportscape, talking Michigan and Michigan State hoops. Let's start with the victors today. Michigan, look, Isaiah Livers, he's the straw that stirs the drink, is he not? I mean, this team is going to go as far as he can take them, I guess.
He is, but you almost want to wrap him in bubble wrap, because every time he goes down, there's a collective gasp, like, what happened? He goes out, but he comes back, and then it's like, okay, it wasn't as bad. He's in a boot, but I think he's going to be okay. But you're right. They're going to go as far as he goes. He goes down for the year, early exit.
Juwan Howard, I think you mentioned it earlier in the show, basically saying, whatever happens, house money. But he's done a nice job of recognizing what's working and what isn't. Obviously, Livers is a huge part of that. But at the same time, he's letting these guys kind of figure it out.
Talk about finding somebody off the bench. Austin Davis is gone from being just the guy at the end of the bench to they need him. He's kind of the X factor of the team. He does a lot of dirt work. He does a lot of the stuff that you wanted John Teske to do. He's doing it. So if you're a Michigan fan, you almost wish that he had more years, because you would like to see further development under Juwan Howard.
Yeah. Michigan State, meanwhile, I mean, what else can you say? 3.5 minutes to go. You have a 7-point lead. House is rocking. You got everybody in there.
No, but I know what you're saying.
They got to catch some fire.
Here's what happens. I think for Michigan State, it's starting and finishing games. That's their Achilles heel. They're started slow, and then they can't finish. That happened against Wisconsin, Indiana, Penn State, and now against Maryland. And if you even think about it, Illinois. They kind of caught a break with Illinois, because teams at the end of the games are double and triple teaming Cassius.
Yep.
His teammates have to stop standing around and watching him and help the man out and go and score buckets.
Darian, as an athlete, is preseason hype something that creeps into the minds of players?
I don't think it creeps into the minds as players as much as the opponents know it. And then they're gunning for you. You become the hunted. And we went through that, when we kind of switched over to that hunted role, probably in about 2014, I would say. 2010 and 11 were great. And then 12 went a little bit down, obviously. Then 13 came out of nowhere. Obviously, after that season, it was like, okay, Michigan State's the top of the top in the Big Ten, and we talked about it all the time. We went from being the hunter to the hunted. So now you have to flip that mindset over as an athlete and know that everybody's gunning for you. How are you going to handle that? And again, to Rico's point, Cassius handles it, but you can only do so much when you're getting triple teamed.
Right.
And X is going to do his part. Everybody else has to handle that too. Everybody else has to realize, hey, we got the green and right on too.
Yeah.
You know, so people are coming for us.
But yeah,
just like they're
Rocket,
coming
Aaron
for
Henry,
Cassius.
somebody. I mean, Cassius is busting his butt out there. He needs a little bit of help.
Just a little bit of help.
3 weeks left in the season. What seeds Michigan getting? What seeds Michigan State getting? Go.
I think Michigan will probably end up in that 8-9 seed area. Michigan State, the way it's looking, anywhere between a 5 to a 7.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I'll take that. I'll take that, though, either of those. I think that Michigan State still needs to show me more often than not they can close out close games. They have not done it. They did it one time at Illinois, but as Rico pointed out,
leaving conference if that'll help.
I think the Big Ten's going to send 6 teams to the Sweet 16. That's just my personal thought. We'll get into that much more. I know, crazy stuff. I do have some final thoughts about Mark D'Antonio, though, coming up here. Guys, thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate it, as always. Stop laughing. Get out of here, Rico. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the FamilyDeal.com 7 Sports Cave. Time for some of my final thoughts, and they all revolve around Mark D'Antonio. Mark D'Antonio is an interesting person for me. Look, before I got this job, long time ago, I was a Spartan fan. We all know that. You guys are pretty clear on that. But Mark D'Antonio came into the program before I even worked in this market, dreamed of working back in this market. So watching the rise of the Spartan program was fun for me. Then I got the job here, and I had to look at things a little bit differently. They won some games, then things started to go south. I had a personal relationship working with Mark D'Antonio, talking to him each and every week right here on these Channel 7 airwaves. So it got a little bit closer to the guy. But to see him leave the program kind of where he found it is disappointing. It's disappointing as a guy who covers him in the media, but it's also disappointing for a Spartan fan at heart. This is a guy that brought Michigan State to new heights, only to bring him back down to where they left him. I asked him at his final press conference, did he leave Michigan State in a better spot than when he found it? He said there was no question to that. I'm going to continue to wonder that same question for a long time. That's all I have for this week. We'll see you next week.